Welcome to Neural Nectar, your brain on optimization. Today we are diagnosing a global lie, burnout. We use that word burnout all the time. I mean, we blame it on long hours, on ourselves, maybe just needing a vacation.
Right.
But if you think burnout is just being extremely tired, you are missing the entire picture. Our deep dive today shows that this is a real physiological problem.
That's it, exactly. Our mission today is to totally shift that understanding. Burnout is not some kind of moral failing or, a sign you just work too hard.
Okay.
It is a complex, measurable neurobiological state. It's a biological shutdown. And it's caused by a failure in the brain's core motivation system.
Let's get right to that central mechanism then. The thesis here, the thing that ties all this together, is that the brain's motivation system is failing. It's basically an efficiency problem, a reward prediction error.
Exactly. Your brain is a calculator. It's
Yeah.
incredibly efficient, and it runs on a very simple principle. If you put in a cost, effort, energy, time, you expect a gain. A predictable reward, yeah. And when that gain, that reward, stops showing up reliably, the brain logs an error. It says, nope, the effort no longer equals the reward, and it juts down the engine.
So it's not laziness, it's the brain making a rational call that the transaction just isn't worth the biological cost anymore.
Need is the ultimate protest.
Yeah.
It's a completely rational response by your biology to a, frankly, toxic environment that has broken its side of the deal.
So if the brain's rule is give equals take, where does this breakdown happen in our actual lives? I think the foundation for this comes from the effort-reward imbalance model,
Yeah.
the ERI model.
Yes, the ERI model from Segrist. It's
Yeah.
the missing link. It explains how the stress of modern work becomes a neurological error. It's all about this recurring experience of failed reciprocity.
Failed reciprocity.
You're putting in consistently high-cost, long hours, high demands, personal sacrifice,
Mhm.
but you're getting consistently low gain in return.
And this is where that analogy comes in that just makes it all click. The slot machine that stopped paying out.
It's the perfect metaphor. You, the employee, the student, whoever, you keep pulling that lever. You're spending all this mental energy. That's the cost.
Then you're expecting the coins, that little dopamine rush of achievement.
But nothing comes out. The machine is broken. Your brain's core principle of exchange has been violated, and the alarm bells start ringing.
Okay, so if the machine is broken, what kind of coins are we talking about? The sources say there are 3 distinct types of rewards that have to balance out the effort.
Absolutely. It's a triple bottom line for the brain. If any one of these is out of whack with the effort you're putting in, the imbalance starts.
And the first one is the most obvious.
The financial reward, your salary, your wage, it's the baseline survival currency.
But you can be well paid and still burn out. We all know people like that. They feel stuck.
That feeling of being stuck is the second reward. The status-related rewards about security, opportunity, promotion, a clear path forward. If you feel like you're invisible and just running in place, that reward is missing.
And then the third one, which I think is so often the one that breaks people, the socio-emotional
The
reward.
social capital. It's getting respect, esteem, recognition for your work. Just a simple good job. If you pour your soul into a project and no one even acknowledges it,
That directly violates the contract.
it signals to your brain that your cost was just wasted.
So who is most vulnerable to this? The research suggests it happens a lot under conditions of dependency.
Yes, dependency. Situations where you feel you have no other choice. Think about precarious work, unskilled roles with no job security. You're sort of forced to accept the bad deal because the alternative seems worse.
But it can also be a strategic choice, which is where it gets really tricky.
Precisely. This is the person who chooses the high-cost, high-demand job. They're an overcommitter, driven, trying to get ahead in a competitive market.
They accept the pain now for a reward they think is coming later.
They are investing massive biological cost on a future payoff that, very often, never materializes.
So the effort is spent, the reward fails, stress builds, and the brain's reward circuits, like the nucleus accumbens, are apparently very sensitive to this kind of inequality. What happens when that's sustained?
This is where the social problem becomes a neurochemical one. That constant sense of disadvantage triggers the body's main stress axis, especially the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenocortical axis.
Okay, let's break that down. If the HPA axis is firing on all cylinders, what does that actually mean for me?
Think of it as your body's alarm system. And chronic stress just leaves that alarm blaring 24/7. It's constantly pumping out stress hormones, mostly cortisol.
Right.
And that leads to what we call allostatic load. Your body's trying to find a new balance, but it's an unhealthy, costly one. It's moved from homeostasis to a state of chronic deviation.
So social stress leads to a cortisol flood. And this brings us right to the hard chemistry. This is where it gets so interesting because the common idea about dopamine being about pleasure, it's just wrong. And it obscures the whole problem.
It really does. The issue isn't that you aren't feeling happy. The issue is that your brain has stopped calculating that the effort is even worth anticipating a reward for.
So dopamine is about the wanting, the seeking.
It's about wanting, seeking, and reward expectancy.
Yeah.
The actual good feeling of, eating a great meal.
Yeah.
That's more serotonin and endorphins. Dopamine is the motivation to go get the meal in the first place.
So when that chronic stress from the ERI model hits, the whole reward system gets hijacked.
Overwhelmed. It undergoes a pathological adaptation. And this deregulation is what creates the anti-reward brain state.
Which is why burnout feels so different from just being tired. You aren't just exhausted, you're numb. You don't even have the will to do things you used to love.
That numbness is the key. Clinically, it's anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. That's the hallmark difference. Chronic stress blunts the responsiveness of your reward system. It creates a profound dopamine low.
The things that used to give you a natural high hobbies, seeing friends, they start to feel like a chore.
They become aversive because your brain literally lacks the chemical drive to pursue them.
But wait, how does the cortisol you mentioned earlier actually shut down the dopamine? Is there a physical link?
There is, and it's inflammatory. The chronic social stress generates actual inflammation in the body. And we're learning that inflammation directly and negatively impacts the corticostriatal circuits.
The dopamine superhighways.
Pretty much. So high cortisol and chronic stress are actively short-circuiting your dopamine system.
It's like the brain has just turned the volume knob on joy all the way down to zero.
Precisely. The whole system shifts from seeking rewards to avoiding cost, because cost has been proven chemically to be a bad bet.
So we get it. The brain is on empty, the effort-reward loop is broken. And when a machine designed to seek rewards is starving, it gets desperate. This leads us right to this incredibly modern behavior, the hunt for cheap dopamine.
It's the inevitable next step. When your brain can't get motivation from natural high-effort rewards, it starts looking for an easy fix, an unnatural reward, something to spike those depleted levels.
Like drugs.
Right. Some drugs can spike dopamine 10 times higher than a natural reward.
Yeah.
But we see that same addictive, compulsive pattern in our digital habits.
Which brings us to revenge bedtime procrastination. That late-night scrolling when you know you should be sleeping. It feels like this act of defiance, taking back your time.
But it's really a biological compulsion. It's a desperate search for a dopamine hit and a feeling of control. The research actually makes a really important distinction here.
Yeah.
There's bedtime procrastination, delaying the act of actually going to bed. That's related to your schedule, your commute, things like that.
And then there's the one we all know.
Then there's while in bed procrastination.
Yeah.
WIBP.
WIBP.
That's delaying sleep after you're already in bed.
Yeah.
And the correlation between the two is incredibly low, which suggests they're driven by totally different needs. WMABP is the hunt for cheap dopamine when the lights are out.
And what are people doing? It's the phone, right?
Overwhelmingly, it's watching YouTube, binging shows, sending text. They're all low-effort, high-stimulus, instant reward hits. It's a tiny, successful reversal of that reward prediction error that's plaguing their daytime life.
So the brain is just trying to score a small win, any win, even if it's just finishing one more TikTok video.
Yes. And here's the irony that keeps the cycle going. For some people, the act of just being in bed feels like they've accomplished the goal of going to sleep.
Even if they're not sleeping.
Right. They get the psychological check mark of task complete without the biological rest, which of course just makes them more vulnerable to the same compulsive behavior the next day.
This completely explains why the standard advice for burnout, just rest, take a vacation, why it so often fails.
It fails because of inertia. If you have a dopamine low, you have no drive. Your brain believes effort is futile. So just passively resting, it often just reinforces that inertia. It doesn't solve the core problem.
You have to actually rewrite the code. You have to signal to the brain that effort does equal reward again.
We have to intentionally increase reward sensitivity. The brain needs new data. It needs predictable, positive feedback to start choosing healthy coping strategies again. You can't just wait for motivation to come back. You have to engineer it.
So how do you convince a cynical biological machine to believe in effort again? If the problem is the reward prediction error, the solution has to be a predictable win.
Through the power of micro wins. The way back is through small, achievable tasks. Not huge goals, things that deliver a small, positive, and this is crucial, predictable dopamine release.
You're actively proving to your nervous system that the slot machine works again.
One tiny payout at a time. You're building momentum with reliable successes. You're moving away from the addiction to cheap, instant hits and back toward earned reward.
This whole deep dive really reframes burnout, doesn't it? It moves it from this vague emotional state to a hard neurochemical diagnosis. A social failure becomes a chemical crash, which leads to bad digital habits.
And the solution isn't passive retreat. It's an active, intentional intervention to recalibrate that broken reward system.
You can't just wait around for the feeling to come back. You have to generate that momentum yourself.
It's all about active rewiring.
Stop trying to relax. Start trying to win, even if it's small.